Well, I hope you are doing good. I hope your week has been good to you so far. I know, though, we have several that are sick and are hurting, and we certainly want to be mindful of those individuals and be praying for them regularly. I have a hard time saying that word, but certainly we want to be lifting their name up before the Father as much as we are able. If you're sick or you're hurting and we don't know about it, please let us know. We want to know about it. If we can do anything at all for you, we just ask that you would ask us. We're in Genesis chapter 42. That's where we're going to start. We're going to skip some chapters. Let's recap chapter 41 quickly. Remember, Pharaoh has had some pretty disturbing dreams. Now, this comes after, of course, the chief baker and cupbearer having dreams in prison, while Joseph's there, and they're upset because no one is there to interpret. Lo and behold, there's this Hebrew boy named Joseph, and he is able to interpret dreams, and Joseph interprets their dream. And of course, he tells the cupbearer, Pharaoh's going to lift up your head, figuratively. The chief baker was literally going to have his head lifted up from his body. But anyway, after, making the cup bearer very happy that he had a favorable interpretation, Joseph tells him, now, when Pharaoh restores you to his service, what did he tell him? Remember me, right? Don't forget about me. Well, he gets out. He's ecstatic. He's very happy about that. And lo and behold, he forgets old Joseph, who's back in prison. So now that gets us to chapter 41. Pharaoh has these two dreams, right? They all, well, at least one dream involves the Nile. Now, when you are Pharaoh, you want the Nile to be on your side because your power over the people is directly related to the condition or status, we might say, even though that's weird to speak of a status of the river, but status of the Nile. You don't want the Nile to be below where it ought to be, right? You need something to offer the people so that they will serve you. Well, in his dream, Pharaoh sees the Nile and he sees these 7 plump, very healthy cows, right? Just doing their thing. And then he sees 7 diseased, sickly cows that are there, and they overcome the plump, healthy cows. And then he sees the same thing. He sees this stalk and, this grain growing from the stalk, 7 heads of healthy grain, then 7, heads that have been withered by the wind, and the withered heads overcome the healthy heads. And he's totally disturbed about what these dreams mean, but he can't make any sense of it. So what does he do? He calls the wise men of Egypt, right? The people that are skilled in interpretations. And they're not able to give him an interpretation at all. Well, it's at this moment that the cupbearer is like, what am I doing? Joseph, he was able to help me. So the cupbearer tells him, hey, there's this guy in prison right now in the pit. His name is Joseph, and he interpreted my dream, and I think he could interpret yours. So he calls Joseph out. And of course, Joseph tells him, God has given me the ability to interpret dreams, but it's God, pretty much in essence working through me. Here's the interpretation of your dream. You had 2 dreams, although those dreams are one and the same, because Egypt is going to have 7 years of plenty, right? 7 years of buffer crops, and then after that, Egypt's going to have a 7-year very severe famine that's not only going to be felt by the people of Egypt, but it's going to be felt by their neighbors as well. So Joseph pretty much offers some advice. He says, I advise you to appoint a wise person to take 1/5 of the crops in the years of plenty and store those up so that in the years of famine, people will be able to buy food, and that way they'll be provided for. Well, of course, if you're Pharaoh, you've already called the wise men of Egypt and they weren't able to interpret your dream. So now you have this Hebrew who was. Well, who's the best person for the job? Joseph. Joseph's the best person for the job. So he tells Joseph, Joseph, the job is yours, but we need to make this official. So, of course, he gives him an Egyptian wife. And, Joseph is good. He's over the land. He's over the people. The only person he's not over is Pharaoh himself. So that gets us to chapter 42. When Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So the 10 of Joseph's sons went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to them. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. So Jacob is sort of slapping his head. He says, "I've heard that people are able to buy grain in Egypt. If I've heard it, surely you've heard it, my sons. What are you doing? What are you doing sitting around here? There's no food for us here in the land of Canaan. You ought to have gone already to the land of Egypt to buy us food." Now, in the text, you might notice that it keeps referencing his sons as Joseph's brothers. Why not his sons? Why not say, the sons of Jacob? Why say Joseph's brothers? Well, see, this is sort of a little nugget, we might say, that the narrator is setting us up. Right. This story is going to involve Joseph. These brothers are going to see Joseph in Egypt. Of course, we know how that happens. But he keeps Benjamin back. So he sends the other 10 and keeps Benjamin. Why? Well, Rachel had 2 children. Her first child was Joseph, and then she has Benjamin. And of course, she ended up dying after giving birth to Benjamin. So he keeps him. Well, now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them, and he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." Now, of course, you have these foreigners coming into the land of Egypt, these Semitic people. It would not have been hard for Joseph to recognize that these people were not Egyptians, just by the way that they were dressed, by the way that they talked. But you're not going to forget the sound of your brothers' voices, are you? You may forget after a while. Now, this has been years since Joseph has seen his brothers. Their appearance might have changed some, but you're not going to forget how they spoke. And if you did for one, you're certainly not going to forget all 10. So Joseph knows these are my brothers, but Joseph obviously looks more like an Egyptian now because of his role. So they had a very difficult time recognizing him, not to mention they probably thought that Joseph was a slave somewhere, or perhaps he was dead. So they're not thinking about him. But notice that Joseph remembers the dreams that he had. Remember when his sheaf stood up and their sheaves bowed to his sheaf, and you had the dream of the sun, the moon, and the stars. This is what's happening. Here's his brothers bowing before him now, as the dream said. But Joseph is accusing them of being spies of the land. Now, that's a pretty harsh accusation, because what penalty does that carry? Well, if you were spying out in the land of Egypt, especially in the time of a famine, right? You're trying to take advantage of the Egyptians in a harsh time of trouble. You're going to die, right? The penalty is death. So no wonder these brothers are so, being very defensive. No, we're not spies. We came from the land of Canaan. But no doubt, Joseph, in knowing that these are his brothers, he wants to find out more. No doubt that he wants to find out how Jacob's doing. He wants to see if his brothers truly have changed. So he needs to keep them. He needs to keep them in custody so that he can find out the things that he wants to know. Well, he said to them, No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see. And they said, We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more. But Joseph said to them, It is as I said to you, you are spies. Now, no doubt Joseph wants to figure out, have my brothers changed? Have they grown up? Well, here you go. If you're Joseph and you hear your brothers saying, we have 12 brothers, well, they're being pretty honest about that. It would have been easy to have said we're 11 brothers and just left Joseph out. But then they go a step further. One of our brothers is no more. Now, they don't say here exactly what has happened to them, although they'll get to that. Well, by this you shall be tested by the life of Pharaoh. You shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh. Surely you are spies. And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, Do this and you will, notice this, you will live. For I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain from the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. Then they said to one another, In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother. Now that brother is Joseph, right? So we are guilty concerning our brother in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. We didn't pity him. We had no compassion on him. He was scared and we didn't care. So notice, this is why distress has come up on us. Now, where are they at right now? Well, they're in prison in Egypt, right? Joseph called that the what? He said, I'm in a pit. Remember, he said, I was in a pit in the land of Canaan, and then I was moved to a pit in the land of Egypt, right? He's thrown them now in the pit for 3 days. Why? He's trying to give them a taste of their own medicine. He wants them to experience a little bit of what he had to experience, feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. These brothers, they're admitting their fault. And Reuben answered them. Now, do you remember Reuben? Where does he rank in the order of the brothers? He is first, right? And Reuben answered them, Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. So Joseph tells them, Hey, I'm going to let all but one of you go back and take grain to your family. And I want you to bring me that young brother that you said wasn't here and was with your father. I want you to bring him to Egypt. I want to test you. I want to make sure you're honest. And if you'll do this, I'll take back my charge of you being spies. Well, of course, these brothers seem to huddle up, have a discussion. But they don't feel the need to take it elsewhere for privacy, right? Because they're Hebrews. They didn't think any of the Egyptians could speak Hebrew. So notice, some noise going on here. So notice what they said. Joseph is hearing everything they have to say, because little do they know, he knows Hebrew. Hold on one second. Something. Sorry for the interruption. So Joseph is listening to them, right? Then he turned away from them and wept. Now he wants to find out if they're honest men. Notice that they seem to have some remorse for what they've done. Joseph is seeing this, and no doubt it's bringing back emotions. So he weeps, and then he returns to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound them before their eyes. Now that's odd. So remember the order of the brothers. Who's the first? Reuben. Who's the second? Simeon. Why keep Simeon over Reuben? Well, Reuben sort of stood up for Joseph, didn't he? Well, we keep going. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to replace every man's money in his sack and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them. Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey feed at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack." Now, just knowing this, most people would be thrilled to know in the time of a famine that they just got free food. But notice to the brothers, this is not a good thing. At this, their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" Notice, they still think God is trying to punish them for what they've done to Joseph. Now, why are they so upset about their money? Well, when they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land. But we said to him, 'We are honest men, and we have never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest this day is with our father in the land of Canaan.' Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, 'By this I shall know you are honest men.'" Now, of course, we won't read the rest of it because he continues to hash out. They continue to hash out recount what we already have read, right? Well, why are they upset about money being in their sacks? Because they think the Egyptians could say, "We've robbed them. We've stolen from them. So now not only are we not spies, but now we're thieves. They're definitely going to kill us. They're definitely, at least, not going to let Simeon go on our behalf because of what we've done." They wanted to clear themselves. They didn't want, this to happen to them. Well, notice Jacob, their father, said to them, "You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you." But he said, "My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol." In other words, if something happens to Benjamin, I'm not going to be able to take it. It will kill me. Now, Simeon is left. He's nowhere to be found, right? I'm sorry, my dog is barking. Stop it. So, okay, we'll finish this conversation next week. I hope you have a great rest of the week. God bless.